Hi, this is Miss Lottie from Olympian High School. We're studying ancient Egypt, and we have just learned about how Egypt took over Tasseti, and from there, Menes conquered the rest of the Egyptian kingdoms, and Egypt ruled under two of the strongest periods of Egyptian history: the Archaic, which means really old, the Archaic period, and the Old Kingdom, when all the big pyramids were built. Now we're going to learn about this period of turmoil or disturbance, uncertainty, chaos that existed in the periods of the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom. That's what we're about to look at next. So first, you should know that part of the reason that the Egyptians ended up having trouble towards the end of the Old Kingdom was precisely because of how well they were doing. The strong agricultural productivity of the time period encouraged some locals to ignore the pharaohs and pursue their own local interests. And so as we start to see this sort of decentralization of power, because remember it used to be highly centralized, we'll see the central state decline and eventually disappear in a period of unrest during the Old Kingdom. So that's in the early, it's 2160 to 2040 BCE. Afterwards, the pharaohs regain control, and we see this next time period in Egyptian history called the Middle Kingdom. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom are powerful, just not as powerful as their predecessors of the Archaic and the Old Kingdom, but they're going to stabilize Egypt, and they're going to supervise relationships with other lands, like the lands of Nubia, until they're attacked during the Middle Kingdom by the Hyksos. So I want you to hold on to the sides of your belly and then go, Hyksos, and just breathe in really deeply, because that way you'll remember that it's the Middle Kingdom that's attacked by the Hyksos. A big misunderstanding that often happens for students is the confusion of the word Hyksos with the word Hittites from chapter 2, which were the people that attacked the Babylonian Empire. Remember, we drew a bee in our hand and then we hit it to represent the Hittites? Not the same people. Although the Hyksos are Semitic people, which means they're probably from Mesopotamia. They were horse-riding people that came to Egypt, and they probably helped spread horses there. And they also had an advantage in that they used bronze weapons, whereas the Egyptians had been using mostly wooden weapons, although some of their arrows had stone tips to them. So obviously they're going to be able to have an advantage when fighting against the Egyptians. Anyway, don't confuse the Hyksos and the Hittites. So the Hyksos come in, they start to rule over Egypt, and that's going to provoke a strong reaction against these what are considered foreigners. So the Egyptians are like, get out of here, you're not from here, and they organize a fight, a military force against these outsiders, and they start to adopt some of the weapons that the Hyksos had introduced, like horse-drawn chariots and bronze weapons. And this new time period where the Egyptians take over from the Hyksos, you have it's called the New Kingdom, and you need to remember this. The New Kingdom could be compared to, say, the Assyrian Kingdom in chapter 2, because that's when they're going to be the most expansive. At that time, agricultural surpluses supported a population of about 4 million people. So remember, San Diego is about 3.5 million people, and they had an elaborate bureaucracy, or people that served the government with different departments. The pharaohs of the New Kingdom did not build large pyramids, but they did build a lot of other architectural monuments and temples and things to show off or advertise their power. So the pharaohs of the New Kingdom tried to extend their authority beyond Egypt, both north and south into Nubia. One of the most important Nubian pharaohs that you need to know is Thutmose III. He's going to lead campaigns into what we think of as chapter 2, Palestine and Syria, so north of them, and campaigning south, and destroy the capital of Kerma, which was the kingdom of Kush we learned about before. This is a Nubian kingdom, okay? So now, what's going to happen next is, just like the people who created the New Kingdom were responding to a threat from outsiders, the Hyksos, and wanting to expel those outsiders, the same sort of reaction is going to happen to the people that the New Kingdom had taken over. They're going to be like, get out of here, Egyptians, you're not from here. So it's going to provoke a reaction by people who are, resisting this Egyptian outsider rule. So they're going to expel these areas. The first thing we're going to see Nubian leaders organizing a new kingdom of Kush with a new capital of Napata. So this is south of Egypt. One of the kings of this new kingdom of Kush is called King Kashta. You need to remember his name, and he's going to extend his rule all the way up to Upper Egypt and beyond. So you have the kingdom of Kush attacking Egypt from the south, and at the same time, you have the Assyrians from chapter 2 with their iron weapons attacking from the north. You remember the Assyrians, you learned about them in chapter 2.